I had an accident in the gym yesterday. The other guy looks way worse. There was 3 of them. No, it was just it's tough. Yeah, it was stupid. It was just a bad accident. It's my fault, and yeah, I'm fine.
You coached it.
Yes.
Did somebody take an axe to Craig Berube's head? When he lifted his hat up, I was mortified.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that's
Did he drop a barbell on his forehead?
The morning report stunned everyone. A Toronto Maple Leafs coach walked into a media session with a black eye and a huge cut on his head that required stitches. He stood in front of cameras with that wound visible. It was not from a hockey game or practice. It came from a gym accident the day before, and it made national headlines across NHL outlets. People saw the injury and the reaction in the same moment. Maple Leafs head coach Craig Berube appeared with a bruise under his left eye and a large gash on his scalp. The wound was closed with a series of stitches. He told reporters that the injury happened in a gym accident the previous day and that he was fine. The press session took place on a Friday morning before a Maple Leafs game. Berube did not hide the cut. He wore a hat at first, but he later removed it. When he took off the cap, the stitch line across his forehead was clearly visible to everyone in the room. The photo of him doing so circulated widely on news sites and social feeds. The coach said the accident was his own fault. He described it as a bad accident in the gym that had nothing to do with hockey. He said it was just an accident and that he was all right despite the injuries. Berube talked about the incident in simple terms. He said, "Just had an accident in the gym yesterday," indicating the event occurred the day before his media appearance. He explained that there was no fight or practice involved. He stated clearly that it was an accident unrelated to team drills or games. He added context with a comment reporters reported. Barube said, "The other guy looks way worse. There were 3 of them," in a remark meant to convey some humor about the situation while addressing the seriousness of the injury. He described the accident as stupid and accepted full responsibility for it. On the same morning, Barube confirmed his status for coaching that night. Despite the visible wounds, he made it clear he planned to remain on the bench for the upcoming game against the Vegas Golden Knights. When asked if he would coach, he responded affirmatively. The team was preparing for an important match that night, and his presence as coach was confirmed. Berube's appearance was described as a surprise when he stepped in front of media. Reporters noted the atmosphere changed immediately when the injury was visible, and the coach addressed it before discussing hockey topics. The initial silence gave way to focus on his physical condition. The wound required a notable number of stitches across his forehead. Reports described the cut as significant, and someone later noted the stitches were prominent enough to attract attention without any cover. The coach's decision to show them publicly made the moment a central part of pre-game coverage. Barube provided limited details about how exactly the gym accident happened. He chose not to go into specifics about the mechanics of the injury. His comments focused on what it was not, namely that it did not come from any team activity or altercation. He clearly stated it was a gym mishap unrelated to hockey drills or a fight. At the time of the press appearance, the Maple Leafs were preparing for a matchup that also drew attention for another reason. A former Leafs player, Mitch Marner, was set to return to Toronto as a member of the Vegas Golden Knights. The matchup was anticipated for that reason in addition to regular season stakes. Berube's presence on the bench that night was confirmed despite the injury. He answered directly when asked if he expected to coach. His response was clear and firm. He said yes, indicating that the injury would not keep him away from the team's duties. Reporters noted his age at the time of the injury. Berube was 60 years old. The reports described him wearing the signs of the accident but still standing before the media and team staff. The contrast between the visible wound and his calm presentation became a main focus of the coverage. The Maple Leafs season context was also included in sports coverage. At the time, the team was positioned several points out of top playoff positions in their division. Their recent performance showed they had lost 4 of their last 5 games and were seeking better results. This added context to the significance of the upcoming game and the state of the team. News coverage described how reporters and photographers took note when Barube removed his hat and revealed the stitches. The visual impact of the stitches drew wide attention across media outlets. The decision to remove the hat at the press session brought the injury into full view for cameras and reporters. His explanation that the accident took place in a gym was repeated across official NHL channels. League reporters and team staff confirmed that it was a workout mishap that resulted in the injury and not a hockey-related incident. This distinction was clearly reported in the statements he made to media. In the press session, Berube declined to provide details beyond the basics. He said he had no further explanation for what happened in the gym. His remarks closed off deeper inquiry into how the accident occurred. He kept the focus on the fact that it was over and that he was coaching. The sequence of reporting established a timeline. The injury occurred the day before the press session during a gym workout. He then came to the morning skate and media before the game and showed the injury. The events were reported in the correct order by multiple news outlets. In summary, Berube's gym accident became a notable NHL news story because it involved him showing his injury publicly and confirming his coaching status for that night's game. It was widely covered by verified sports news and reached audiences beyond routine injury reports through visuals and quotes from his remarks.
I mean, I think that's got to be the main, point of focus each and every night. Like, we don't have to be the best team in the world every single night, but we need everybody to compete. We need everybody to just play good. Everybody just has to go out there and do their job and play good. And, just the consistency, that's been a big part of it.
Something changed inside the Maple Leafs room, and it didn't happen during the game. It happened after. One short statement from the captain. Calm words. Sharp meaning. Fans caught it instantly. Media replayed it again and again. The coach had just sent a message. Hours later, the captain answered, and what followed quietly shifted the conversation around this team. The moment came after practice. Not during a game. Auston Matthews stood in front of reporters as the Toronto Maple Leafs tried to reset after another difficult stretch. The team had struggled to close game. Defensive lapses had cost points. Pressure was building. Earlier, head coach Craig Berube had addressed the issue directly. He pointed to leadership. He said the team's leaders needed to take more control.
I thought we just made it really easy for them. The neutral zone was, a highway for them to get through, and I don't know. We just made it so easy for them, and they're obviously a skilled team, a lot of talent, a lot of speed, and I don't think we put enough stress on them on both sides of the puck.
That context mattered when Matthews spoke. Matthews did not raise his voice. He did not criticize teammates. He did not challenge the coaching staff. His words were measured. "We can all be better," Matthews said. He pointed to the last two games and called them frustrating. He added that responsibility would fall on the leaders and said he was fine with that. He stressed grinding, consistency, and sticking to what worked earlier in game. They came hours after Berube's blunt assessment following a loss, when the coach said the leaders had to take control more than they were. Berube's style has been direct since arriving in Toronto. He speaks plainly after losses. He places accountability where he believes it belongs. After recent results, that spotlight turned toward the leadership group. At the same time, Berube had been openly praising Matthews' on-ice play. Before a recent game, Berube said Matthews was driving play, creating chances, and playing with pace and determination. That praise was public. It was specific. It focused on effort and approach, not just scoring. This exchange happened during a stretch filled with major moments for Matthews. He had just returned from injury. Soon after, he broke the Maple Leafs' all-time goal-scoring record, passing Matt Sundin. He scored his 421st goal in fewer games than any player in franchise history. That achievement came during a loss, which kept the focus on team results rather than celebration. Inside that environment, Matthews' words took on extra meaning. The captain was not speaking as a player chasing milestones. He was speaking as the face of the team during a moment of scrutiny. His message echoed the coach's demand for urgency and detail. It reinforced accountability without pointing fingers. Fans noticed the timing. Analysts noted the alignment. The conversation shifted from systems and tactics to leadership and response. The reaction to Matthews' comments spread quickly because of what followed on the ice. In the games surrounding those statements, Matthews' role was clear. His minutes stayed heavy. His matchups stayed difficult. He took key defensive zone face-offs. He remained on the ice late in close games. Those deployment choices reflected trust from the coaching staff. Craig Berube continued to speak about structure and pace in the days that followed. He did not walk back his earlier comments about leadership. He also did not single out any player. Instead, he repeated that the team needed consistent effort across all three periods. His public message remained steady. Matthews' leadership role extended beyond scoring. After returning from injury, he resumed his position on the top line and first power play unit. His ice time remained among the highest on the team. According to NHL game logs, Matthews averaged over 20 minutes per game during that stretch. threat. Those minutes included penalty kill shifts and defensive zone start, areas that often reflect coaching trust. In the days following those remarks, media coverage centered on the connection between the captain and the coach. Analysts replayed both Barube's earlier comments and Matthews' response. The sequence became the story. First, the coach challenged the leaders. Then, the captain answered publicly. Barube continued to praise Matthews' pace and effort in later interviews. Matthews continued to emphasize team play when asked about individual achievements. After breaking the franchise goal record, he redirected attention back to results and consistency. The exchange between coach and captain did not resolve the Maple Leafs' challenges overnight. Wins and losses continued, but the messaging inside the organization became clearer. Accountability was shared, responsibility was acknowledged, expectations were stated publicly, and as the season moved forward, that short statement after practice remained one of the clearest signals yet of how leadership inside the Maple Leafs room was responding to pressure.
With Marty Bureau. Marty, here's an observation I've made. Nothing seems to come easy for this Maple Leafs team.
The Toronto Maple Leafs were not dealing with one bad night or one missing player. The problems were deeper. Defensive numbers told the story. Injuries added weight. Then the general manager broke his silence. He did not shift blame. He did not promise quick fixes. What he admitted placed the entire season under a harsher light.
We're not where we want to be or we're where we envision to be. Obviously, we've underperformed to this point, and I take full responsibility. I'm in charge of the hockey department. I've put the people in place on the ice, off the ice, so the responsibility lies with myself, and we start today and every day trying to get ourselves back up and going and improve where we are.
The focus moved sharply to Brad Treliving after the Toronto Maple Leafs continued to struggle through the early portion of the season. During a media availability, the general manager addressed the team's performance directly. He stated, "We've underperformed to this point." That statement placed responsibility at the top of the organization, not on individual players or coaching staff, and it marked one of the clearest acknowledgments from the front office this season. Treliving expanded on that position by stating, "I'm in charge of the hockey department. I've put the people in place on the ice, off the ice, so the responsibility lies with myself." The comment removed ambiguity about where accountability rests. At the time of those remarks, the Maple Leafs held an 8-9-2 record. They ranked second last in the Eastern Conference. The team had also allowed the second most goals per game in the league.
Brett Treliving, the general manager, had his media availability at about the quarter mark of the season, and things are not going well in Toronto right now when you look at the hockey club. And Noodles, one of the quotes that really stood out, there was a lot of great quotes that I want to talk about with you about Brad Treliving. One of them was, "There's too much vanilla with our hockey team right now." And when I think of Brad Treliving talking about we need a new DNA, and right now he's saying there's too much vanilla, I mean, this is a pretty significant message to the players.
Attention then shifted to the team's identity. Treliving described the Maple Leafs on-ice product as too much vanilla. The description pointed to inconsistency and a lack of complete performances rather than isolated mistakes. He also stated that the issues were not limited to specific players. Put anybody in the uniform and playing the way we're playing, we're probably going to have the same result. The general manager also addressed speculation around immediate roster changes. Treliving stated, "You're not trading your way out of problem." That remark signaled resistance to quick external fixes. Instead, he emphasized that improvement must come from within the existing group. At the same time, he publicly reaffirmed his support for head coach Craig Berube, stating, "Craig didn't become a bad coach overnight," and adding that he had all the faith in the world in him. These statements surfaced as injuries continued to impact the roster. Veteran defenseman Chris Tanev suffered a groin injury described in reports as potentially long-term. Other players dealt with lower body issues, further limiting lineup stability. With performance concerns already present, the injury situation increased attention on roster depth and long-term planning, and that pressure remained fixed on the general manager as the situation continued to develop. The situation intensified as external pressure met internal limitations. Reports published in early January indicated that roster planning had become more complicated due to injuries, particularly on defense. According to coverage summarized by Hockey Patrol, The Maple Leafs were forced to reassess trade deadline planning because of player availability and health concerns. Chris Tanev's groin injury was identified as a key factor, with the absence expected to last a significant period, further reducing defensive depth. At the same time, the general manager maintained his stance against reactive decision-making. His statement, "You're not trading your way out of problems," continued to shape public interpretation of the organization's direction. The message was clear: immediate transactions would not replace internal correction. This position stood even as external observers linked injuries and defensive struggles back to roster construction choices made before the season began. The pressure surrounding these comments increased because of timing. The Maple Leafs were not dealing with isolated losses. They were managing sustained inconsistency. According to the Hockey News, Trey Living acknowledged the lack of complete games and noted that the team struggled to maintain structure over full 60-minute performances. These remarks aligned with his earlier description of the team's play as lacking edge and consistency. Despite the criticism, Trey Living continued to place emphasis on unity within the organization. His support for head coach Craig Berube remained firm. Trey Living rejected any suggestion that coaching instability was the source of the problem.
Yeah, good resilience tonight and character coming back, coming back the whole game, But we stuck with it, and I thought guys had good attitude and kept competing and doing good things, and ended up scoring some goals, which we needed.
The Maple Leafs fell behind again and again, yet refused to fade. When the final horn sounded, the scoreboard told one story. The coach told another. Craig Berube stood firm after the win, choosing his words carefully, sending a message that landed hard and changed the conversation heading forward. The Toronto Maple Leafs delivered one of their most turbulent wins of the season with a 6-5 comeback victory against the Winnipeg Jets. The game unfolded with constant momentum swings. Each time, the team responded with a goal. The result marked one of the highest scoring games of the season for the club. Austin Matthews led the charge. The Maple Leafs captain recorded a hat trick and added an assist. His third goal came late in the third period and stood as the game winner. According to the official game recap, Matthews finished the night with 4 points, directly factoring into more than half of Toronto's goals. His performance came after returning to the lineup following a brief injury absence. The game also featured a major goaltending change. Joseph Woll started the game for Toronto, but was pulled after allowing 4 goals. Dennis Hildeby entered in relief and stopped 22 of 23 shots. That change stabilized the game and allowed Toronto to stay within reach as the offense continued to press. Winnipeg contributed heavily to the chaos. Mark Scheifele scored twice and added an assist. Gabriel Velarde and Alexi Afalo also found the net. The Jets held leads at several points and entered the third period still within striking distance. However, Toronto's late push proved decisive. After the game, head coach Craig Berube addressed the media. His tone was firm. He focused on effort, response, and execution rather than mistakes. Good resilience and character coming back tonight, Barube said during his post-game availability. He later added, "I like the guy's attitude. Everyone kept going." Barube referenced how the team stayed engaged despite allowing goals. His comments centered on response rather than breakdown. He did not single out individual errors. Instead, he emphasized collective pushback after each deficit. Toronto improved its recent stretch with the victory, while Winnipeg's losing streak extended. The game ended with celebration on the ice, but the focus quickly shifted to the coach's message, which framed the night as something more than just a comeback win. The message from Craig Berube did not stop at resilience. His remarks also reflected how the Maple Leafs are choosing to play during this stretch of the season. Toronto has leaned into offense, even when games become unstable. Against Winnipeg, that approach was visible from the opening period through the final minutes of regulation. Barube acknowledged the reality of the game's structure. Goals were allowed. Momentum shifted, yet the bench response remained consistent. Players continued to attack. The coach did not frame the win around clean execution. Instead, he described persistence through repeated setbacks. His comments aligned with the numbers on the scoreboard, rather than any single moment. Dennis Hildeby's role became more pronounced as the game progressed. After replacing Wool, he faced consistent pressure but allowed only one goal. His save percentage for the night finished above .950. The stabilization in net coincided with Toronto's ability to push forward without conceding another lead. Barube's comments did not reference external criticism directly. He spoke through the lens of performance. His emphasis remained on how the team reacted after being tested repeatedly. The coach's language centered on attitude, pushback, and staying engaged. These were observable elements reflected in the flow of the game. The win also came during a period of increased scrutiny around Toronto's consistency. High-scoring games have defined recent results. Against Winnipeg, that pattern continued. The Maple Leafs scored 6 goals for the second time in a week. Over their last 5 games, their goal total reached 25, confirming the offensive surge. Winnipeg's situation added context. The Jets entered the game on a losing streak that extended further with this result. Despite strong individual performances, they were unable to hold multiple leads. Toronto capitalized on each opening created. As the